Hey, everybody out in Zoom land. I guess that we're here and it says something here, and I don't want to press leave meeting because that would be bad. We may have a guest appearing, but she's lost in the ether right now. We've had issues before with our hard drive and everything else, so it's interesting. But to keep you entertained, we have our Zoomy Pat.
Hello.
And we have, of course, our old reliable Chaz.
Hello. Hello, people.
Well, we were talking a little about waking dreams and stuff and going on. You said you had like a terrifying experience with it.
It ain't no fun. Well, what happened with me is I'm taking a little cat nap on a sofa or something, and it's happened when I was tired out, not getting enough sleep, and you're like, okay, it's time to wake up and go eat dinner, and it's like, nope, you're staying where you're staying put, and it's like you don't have control over your body. Your REM engine is still saying, stay asleep, dude. It's a weird state to be in. That's my experience. Don't like it.
I've had a couple of those. Like that's what I think a lot of people like with UFO abductions and stuff like that. I think they're waking dreams in a lot of ways because you can't tell the difference between reality and the dream in that state.
Yeah, it's the most common explanation for ghost sightings and people seeing things when they're, should be asleep.
Now, there's one theory. I know, Chaz, you've talked about this. We've talked about this years ago, but there was this one theory in a book that the Greeks really saw gods because they couldn't differentiate between dreams and reality. But we were saying, and I don't know the science behind it, like in terms of evolution in our brains, it's probably not true.
Yeah, there's some theory about the bicameral brain where the ancient brain was not separated out, delineated in the same way ours is. I don't know any more than that, but it is a theory in evolutionary psychology.
I just don't know enough about it because it's like how like you think about like all like different races and people who've never met, but they have like sort of the mythology is basically the same, just with different names.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of people that want to get in touch, like remember that movie Altered States? They want to get in touch with the primal. So these drug abusers that take like ayahuasca. My stand on that is, I guess on your podcast we're not supposed to take strong stands on.
You can take a stand on anything. We don't.
My stand on that is thumbs down. You're playing with fire, folks.
Actually,
sure half of the people go, dude, you're just a sheep. It's cool. So, but you know what I'm talking about, ayahuasca or DMT.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the fashion drugs to get into the other dimensions. I'm chicken. So
I've never had any desire to do that kind of stuff just because the whole idea of having real hallucinations and maybe seeing things that aren't there just has always frightened me.
As it should.
If I've ever had hallucinations, I haven't thought they were real.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just would not want to. I don't know. I just have enough problems with reality as it is. I don't need to be seeing all this weird stuff. And I had these guys in high school who were like tripping acid already. And like during chemistry class, they're seeing flowers come at them and the flowers are cutting them and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this would be fun. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And then you think, yeah.
I just thought of a metaphor that applies to me, and this is why I don't like to get into hallucinogens or stuff like that. It's like we're only processing so much of the reality that's out there. That's probably a fact. So there's a overload of it, and we're just filtering out what we're capable of processing at any given time in order to keep our sanity. And it's like a mixing board with different tracks, different, a mixing board, different
channels,
tracks. And you only want to listen to 2 or 3 tracks at a time. And if you're like turning up 10 of them at once, it can be overwhelming to some of us, like me. So I'm pretty happy with the way my mixing board's programmed normally without adding a lot of different tracks. That's my metaphor anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and
So
there's a lot of people have different theories on aspect. You know, certain. I can't talk. It's been a long day. About how certain. All right, about that. How certain substances can react with your mind in a clinical setting. But you know, I don't know. You know, I think it's when it comes to the brain, there's so much that we don't really know, and I think I like to believe that there are some smart people who figured out how to do this, and there are people who've had success with this. But I just think there's no one cure all or one method that works with everyone.
no,
Did we lose you, Charles? Are you still there, Chas? Sorry, this thing says Charles. I never call him Charles.
Call him whatever, Chas. Charles doesn't matter.
It's because I'm just looking at his name now.
Yeah,
Did we lose you, Chas? I think we lost Chas.
Well, this has become an interesting one.
All right. Well, so now it's he's still out there. I just think he might have gone under. He is driving currently. I'm fairly certain.
I think he's home today because he was
No,
talking
he's
about
in his car. You
stuff.
can see. I mean, you could when he was on. Chaz, are you there?
Well, this is
I got to connect. Hold on a second.
Okay,
this
cool.
turned into one of those good ad-lib episodes.
Hold on, guys.
Well, how's the weather today?
Oh yeah, you can just go ahead and skip this episode if you want.
No, we can see how it goes.
No, it's fine.
Well,
I was going to ask him where he was because it looks like he is on the road.
I'll ask Chaz how it was and where he is and everything else. And
yeah, I was going to say driving and podcasting. I don't know.
And who knows, like, again, I know my friends had problems with their computer, and she said that she got a different one and that it should work. So,
has she gotten back to you at all since?
Not yet. I just said everything else, but it's like, you know how it goes on this show.
Yeah, this is
Some
called
people
a mixed bag episode.
Yeah, it's like the old ad-lib. All we need is like we need Greg somewhere out in the ether.
Well, we wherever Greg is, we wish him well because he's going through stuff.
Yes, very much so. And it's
he's going through some serious stuff, and we love him. We want him back as soon.
Yep, and there's always a spot and everything. And I've told him that
he cannot be replaced.
No, I mean there are drummers, but he's our drummer. It's not like the story about.
There are many drummers. This one is ours.
There's a quote from John Lennon. I guess he was asked one time about Ringo Starr. And he's asked, is Ringo the best drummer in rock? And John said, Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. That good drill humor. It's good old John, though. I guess
well, John was notoriously not the nicest guy.
No, not at all. And I guess too of what I've heard just from some people who actually met him, it depended when you encountered him too, because he was a man of many moods.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's the thing. That's the thing. It's unfair to judge people we don't know based on interactions that you hear about. Like you always hear that so and so's a jerk because I met him one time, 5 minutes of his life. I think we talked about this before. And he was mean to me. I'm like, that might have been you. But I mean, with John Lennon, I think it's safe to say at this point that there was a lot of evidence.
Oh yeah.
But
there he is. What happened to you?
No, I am in my car. I'm on using a personal hotspot, which
it got cold.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So,
are you on the road right now?
No, but I have to be stationed here. It's a long story in my car. I'm on a break from work, but I'm actually stationed away from home on a work break. So
say no more.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. But one thing we were talking about reality, and a question I'll put out there is, how do you think social media has affected all these concepts of reality and everything?
It's made things really crappy, but To take the other slant, I think for some people, surprisingly, to hear this from me, I think when it's taught some people critical thinking skills. Like, when you're in junior high and you have debate club and you have reasoning and red herrings and whataboutism and stuff. For the people that never got to do that, never got formally trained, I think that they can benefit from that. With the political discourse and this and that, but largely the other side of the coin is it causes tribalism and people to become assholes and lose friends and all the other stuff we know about, right?
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessarily fair to say it causes. I think it's just another avenue for human nature to make itself apparent, and it in and of itself is a technology. Therefore, it has no, it's like any other thing humans have made. It's just how we use it. And I think that, and I agree that there's been a lot of issues with social media, and I think that I truly feel that as we move forward as a society and more people are born in a world with social media, that we're still kind of in the baby steps of this big thing, and it comes to a point where I think people by and large will wind up it becomes easier to see what's real, what isn't on there. It's the same thing with like spam emails. It's just like 20 years ago, somebody who would have maybe react to a random email they got from someone now is just like, well, this is just garbage. It's out. I hope that that's what happens.
I agree with you, and I think it is in baby territory, evolutionary wise, and I think norms are still being established, norms of behavior.
I think there's a case of what I'll call unreality, that where people, like, you see all these things. I don't really get jealous anymore. I'm too old. I don't really care. But it's almost like people just put up the best things, and people look at it like these standards are just nothing they can live up to, because everybody just puts the best things or exaggerates.
You're talking like influencer culture, like the whole.
That word gets to me because I don't even pay attention to that.
It's a big thing, but I think that's another thing that is somewhat in its infancy. Over the years, this new brand of celebrity has been created that is as artificial as anything else. Really, I agree with
you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much Facebook. I'm not going to do TikTok. Too old. I'm not going to get into my overalls and tap dance without my pants on TikTok, because I don't think people want to see it. So
TikTok in and of itself is it's not my thing either, and I think that I don't know enough about what's really going on in the background of that. You hear a lot of things, but even if 10th of the things of the background of that platform are true, I don't really see a need to get into it. But that's
how about Periscope? Anybody do that? Not me.
Is that still a thing? I remember hearing about Periscope back in the days when I was still listening to Stern, because all of his whack packers were getting on Periscope, which was feel like just a way for them to ask for money from people. I think like in a way like Twitch has kind of become the new Periscope, because Twitch started as a way just to stream video game, and it still largely is, but there's so many other people that just have Twitch talk shows and game shows and stuff, so who knows? I don't know, but
no, you're right. Twitch is huge, and I think Facebook is kind of like boomer land, but
oh no, yeah, that's the perception, and and that's the one I'm largely on, just because I've been on it for so long, and You know, and you know, yeah, once again, a thing in and of itself is not evil. It's who's behind it and who's using it. And I would probably argue that the people in charge or the person in charge is, you know, dubious, but he's also, you know, it's also it is dubious as any other major corporation, in my opinion. So
I was actually saying, I was like on like a mini rant about that later, where I was talking about boycotting things, and I said that, okay, for most corporations, they're all to some bigger or lesser degree of evil, so just take your pick.
Yeah, I mean, boycotts on certain levels can be helpful, but the way, you know, the way we get information now, when you boycott something and the boycott becomes known and widely publicized everywhere, it winds up usually having the opposite effect, because you get all the people who disagree with the reason you're boycotting, and more of them. You know, it's just like, I feel like it's a thing that it's, you know, bad press is still press. You know,
it's like the old joke. We should organize a boycott against our shows and other things because they'd be more popular.
Yeah. Well, it was like when Dogma came out and Kevin Smith was standing out in front of the theater with the people who were protesting his movie, and was really excited about it because, of course, everybody's talking about my movie. You know.
Well, actually, exactly. I'm always late in the game, but I finally got around to watching Good Omens. I really liked it.
Well,
and it's more Terry Pratchett.
Apparently, so.
Well, it must be new. But Terry Pratchett, I think even Neil said he wrote most of it. But I guess Neil will sign the book Burn This, because he was hoping it would start a book burning campaign because of the Antichrist and everything. Have you seen that, Chaz?
No, it sounds cool. I'll have to check that out.
Basically, in a nutshell, it's about the Book of Revelations, and the Antichrist is coming to destroy the world, but an angel and a demon who've been around since the dawn of time. And remember, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. Well, in the story, isn't it?
I think so. I don't know. You know, that's one of those things. The book and even the show, so many references and jokes and bits of lore are flung around that it is impossible to remember them without reading it a bunch of times or watching it a million times.
Well, one of the problems is in the book, whenever the Antichrist is a baby, they introduce him every time with what is it, like the
spawn, the spawn Lord of the Flies, blah blah blah, yeah.
So it goes like that. It's almost like the Iliad. But what happens is the angel and the demon, they've been around like 6,000 years. They decide they really like Earth and they don't want it to end. So they try to stop the end of times. And I thought it was really, I haven't read, and they try to I won't spoil it, but they try to bring up, but it gets all confusing.
Yeah, like the Antichrist is raised, the Antichrist is supposed to be in one family and then they swapped with somebody else, and that's the very beginning of the book, at least.
Hey, is this like English or American?
Oh, very English.
How did I guess? I just guessed it.
It's Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. It was like
a long time ago they wrote it though, because
it was like mid to late 80s.
And like I said, I guess Neil even said it was mostly Terry's book.
Yeah, and I was surprised to hear that they were going to do a second season. Not shocked, because it was very successful, and I'm sure they waved a lot of money in Neil Gaiman's face to do it or be involved or whoever. I mean, I guess technically, I don't know how much of that they would need to have him involved in, but I'm sure he's a smart enough guy. He's been around long enough to probably.
So what platform is this on?
It's on the show that they made. It's a miniseries, is on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And it was
starring Good Omens.
It's called Good Omens. It was starring David Tennant and Michael Sheen, who are just perfect. And originally, you might not know this, Rob, but originally when the show was pitched, their roles were switched. Sheen was supposed to play the demon, and Tennant was supposed to play the angel, but I don't know whose decision it was, but somebody was like, try it the other way, and I feel like they're both so great that they could they could both play those roles, and
I like
really
even like, of course, ways. Neil being Neil. There had to be like some references to Doctor Who. And like one of the rumors too, there's tons, and I know they just said they just started even like doing auditions, but wasn't Michael Sheen one of the rumors for the next Doctor too?
Michael Sheen's been thrown around a lot, but I don't know if the problem is the rumors you hear are not based on any kind of.
No, they're not. Russell Davies said they're just starting auditions actually, so it's all just wishful thinking.
I don't know, but there's one rumor that has been thrown out, which is, at this point with Doctor Who, anything is possible. I feel like it's gone so far for good or bad, which people will argue about, and that's fine because at the end of the day, it's art and it's to be interpreted. But the rumor was that David Tennant was going to be the next Doctor, and then it was going to be literally it was going to be the 10th Doctor again for some reason, because ratings are flagging, and and then they hand it up to somebody else. But it just like that I can't imagine anyone signing off on such desperate a play. I think I would say if the ratings were that bad, that they're considering bringing someone else back who played the Doctor before, I would just cancel it. Just because it's just, take another break for another 20 years.
Well, have you seen the ads? I've seen the one ad with it's like Return the Conquering Hero with Russell Davies, the one promo I saw.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't like pretty much anything he wrote. I credit him for bringing the show back, but I did not care for him all around. I mean, I don't know. I'm an old fan, so
what I know about Doctor Who, but I'm not part of the cult, so I just know memories of watching it on PBS and
hobo with a scarf lives in a magic dumpster. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. And the magic dumpster is gargantuan.
So what's classic Doctor Who, like 1978 or?
Well, I mean, the original run of the series was from 1963 to 1988, I think.
Okay.
And then they brought it back in 89. And they brought it back in 2005 with the only thing between there being one American-produced TV movie that is considered canon for whatever that means. Only because it was a good Doctor. Everything else about that show was that movie was.
I remember watching it in around 80, maybe 80 or something. I don't know. Was when you're talking about, and they switched in another lady actress, and I quite enjoyed it because in some scenes they'd put her in like a loincloth.
Oh, that was Leela. She was mostly in that was. It was a great character. I mean, granted, yes, it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to see what the impetus behind that was, but in her defense, she was a well-written character and well performed, and the idea of pairing up basically a brain on 2 feet, who knows, he was incredibly brilliant. Person from stupendously advanced civilization with a primitive person who's basically just a little few steps up from a caveman is a kind of cool idea because her perspective on things was really interesting. She acted on instinct and she was right more often than the Doctor would give her credit for.
And she would do literal stuff too, like always. Louise Jameson said she'd do the dog in the headlights look a lot of times. But then you would say something and she would take it literally.
Yeah, and she was very attractive, but she was also really good. Like they didn't just they weren't and that wasn't the first time they've had they've throughout the series they've had female companions that they dress in whatever British version of.
No, it was still legit. It was PG-13, but it was still like you guys.
But there was the infamous introduction of Perry, in the bikini, and it just come on, guys.
Oh, I know, but this is how the difference is. And I knew the doctor. And I think Paul McGann, if he had been like, if you watch Night of the Doctor, 6 minutes, he could have been one of the best doctors ever. And Paul McGann.
I loved seeing it, but I was just like, why couldn't this just be an episode? Why couldn't this just be a special episode?
And why couldn't he have gotten even like a 4-inch, like a mini series I would have taken? I thought he was just so good.
Well, and also
Paul McGann, as I said, from With Nell and I, obviously.
Yeah. His whole in the TV movie, like he wears somebody's Halloween costume is his outfit. There was somebody dressing as Wild Bill Hickok for Halloween because it was Halloween when he regenerates in this hospital in San Francisco, and he grabs this costume and it winds up being this perfect doctor outfit. And I was looking at Paul McGann during the Time War, his doctor during the Time War is his hair is short, but I looked at his outfit. It's the same outfit. It's just all beat to shit. Like I looked at the cravat, the shirt, even the bits of the jacket, and it's like he's still wearing that same outfit, but it just was wrecked. So like, despite the fact that he cut his hair because Paul McGann famously wore a wig, or either had long hair or wore a wig, and did not like having long hair. So when they brought him back for that short, you were just like, and it's like when they started doing audio stories with his doctor, he was like, okay, you can photograph me as a doctor, but I'm not wearing long. I'm gonna have whatever length of hair I have is what the doctor looks like. And they were like, that's fine.
And the thing they did too, that's why they had all what they do with the doctors too, is like he was in a lot of audio stories. So like when he's regenerating in that episode to become the war doctor, he's mentioning these companions we've never heard of.
Because they were the ones from the audio dramas, which are.
But what got me is like how America, this is the thing, I think America just can't do some things right. In the Doctor Who movie, I was turned off because what do they do at the beginning? Sylvester McCoy sitting there in the TARDIS reading the Time Machine.
I was happy enough that they were acknowledging that they weren't just because I didn't even know it's the days before it was 96. It was days before the internet when the show. I had no idea what to expect. And I was preparing myself for this is an Americanized version of Doctor Who. It's going to have no connection to the original series, and they're just going to make stuff up. And even though a lot of stuff had changed, the fact that it was still Sylvester McCoy, and they did have him go, have to reincarnate into a different actor during the show, even though it was the dumbest thing. He steps out of the TARDIS and gets gunned down. It was just like.
Then did they shock him or something and they goof it up?
Yeah, well, he is technically still alive, but the surgeon doesn't know she's working on an alien. So he dies essentially, and then the regeneration process starts.
Now, the story I've heard from, and this I think was an interview with him, is where he said actually that he could have continued the role, but he figured it was like almost like Timothy Dalton with Bond, where it's like, look, too much time's passed. So I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't think it was his decision. I don't think it was McCoy's decision. I think that
you guys are over my head because
I know we should shift the conversation to something.
No, Paul McCartney's going on tour. How do you feel about some of these musicians going on tour, Chaz, that are like in their 80s and stuff? Can they still bring it?
I still want to make a comment about because it's English, and the one you were talking about before that was
Good Omens.
But yeah. So, but English sci-fi heroes are more like scholars and gentlemen than American. Think of like Buck Rogers or William Shatner. Those guys are like.
Well, he's
cowboys.
Canadian.
They're not. Well, America. Yeah. Okay. I'm wrong,
it's connected. It's connected. It's close.
American science fiction is basically like a Western. They're basically Westerns in space.
Yeah, and that's still a thing that continues. But that was how Gene Roddenberry sold Star Trek, is he said it's wagon train in space. He had to basically boil it down to that and be like, look, it's wagon train in space. That's what the show is. So they would sign on.
But English sci-fi are not Westerns. They're different. I don't know. I couldn't categorize them, but the protagonists are more scholarly. They're more like researchers or something like that. If you get my drift. They're not just speculators.
and throughout the years, that's kind of changed a little bit and gone back and forth, but because everybody borrows from everybody else. But yeah, I think that, primarily, and the British, if kind of invented science fiction, if you really think about it. If
he has dematerialized.
I think we lost Chaz again. I don't know. We lost a video, but
well, actually, what happened, I guess, is I guess H.G. Wells with War of the Worlds was the first time Martians or like people from things from space were depicted as very alien. You knew they were alien. Before it was always like basically some depiction of people. I think Voltaire wrote a story about an alien from Jupiter somewhere where the guy was like 125 feet tall and he came to Earth, but they all looked like us.
Well, and on that whole thing with H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, those guys, I was reading an article recently, which I thought had a lot of, well, it was a blurb really, I think more than an article, but it was talking about how Mary Shelley with Frankenstein is considered by many to be the first science fiction story, and it was written, and Frankenstein was written by a 19-year-old, English woman, and to give the credit to the creation of science fiction to all male authors is unfair. And I said, oh, that's kind of an interesting. I definitely see that point of view.
And I do consider that a science fiction story.
No, it's absolutely science fiction because it's literally science is a big part of it. It's man's.
And I guess I like reading like origins of things, and there's a really good book about Frankenstein, and that was an era where it was like a fad trying to bring people back from the dead. And it was usually electric shock, and they never say in the book. If you read the book, Victor refuses to say what the source of creating life is because obviously she didn't know, we didn't know. It's the best way to go.
Yeah, it's
they just all the electrodes and everything else. That's all from the movie.
Yeah.
You there, Chaz, or is it just gone?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
What in your term? Are you a fan of science fiction at all? Because we're out of your swamp here for what we talk about.
No, I mean, not like as deep in as you guys, but yeah, like Frankenstein is like the template for the modern horror genre. It really is.
Yeah.
The shit is great. And but like another, there's so many variations of that, and zombie movies and stuff. There's one I want to see that sounds kind of sick in a cool way. You ever heard of Reanimator? I guess it's
I own it.
I've seen it. Yeah, it is
sounds wild.
Yeah, it's based on a Lovecraft story.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know much about Lovecraft, but all that stuff. I mean,
he's not a very good guy, but he's inspired a lot.
Not very controversial.
But really, you take any horror, like take Stephen King, the big name there, so many other people, it's Lovecraft. And he's a really sort of a controversial guy. He never was really, that's saying the least. I'm being sort of generous there.
I mean, yeah, he was incredibly racist. Was really the big thing. Even when comparing him to contemporaries. And at the heart of a lot of his stories was the fear of the other. But he tapped into this, this cosmic horror genre, which he did not invent. He just kind of he created or added to a certain kind of mythos that or myth. Mythos was the term that was created for that, but like. Of these cosmic entities, these uncaring cosmic beings who we not comprehend with human thought that we are helpless against, as the nightmares from beyond.
Well, listen, you're not going to get me sticking up for a racist, but if you know me, I separate the art from the separate the art from the artist. So
yeah, and a lot of a lot of us
yeah.
do. There are people who can, there are people who can't. I don't fault anybody for how they how they view things, but yeah,
I mean,
his
listen,
contributions
cool.
were huge, which is why we still talk about him and refer to these things as Lovecraftian. But like
Right.
Ambrose Bierce wrote this. All kinds of people really contributed to the genre and
basically the gist of it too is we're meaningless and the universe doesn't care. In fact, the universe is hostile. There's like this big organism, Azathoth, that basically is dreaming us in the center of the universe. He's got little pipers keeping him asleep. All he has to do to wake up and bang, we're in the void.
Yeah, it's.
Hey, you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
I thought of a science fiction script just myself driving around in my car today. So I'm driving it. You guys would think I'm crazy, but you already know I'm crazy. So I'm picking a little eye booger out of the corner of my eye. A little piece of crusty crumb. You know those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I'm going to just flick it out the window. And then I thought, well, what if a billion years ago the aliens were here and the Earth was barren and there was no life, and one of the aliens flicked an eye booger out onto the ground, and the other alien said, "Dude, don't do that. You're going to contaminate this planet. Something's going to happen. We told you to keep things sterile." And the little eye booger, like, it gets hit by lightning and it splits with some nitrogen, and it's the beginning of life on it.
Yeah.
Can we get Dell really quick?
Dell, if you're listening,
let's
we're
not
coming
poke
for
Dell.
Well, the idea.
Dell.
You know the idea though, like about the whole Ray Bradbury thing, the Sound of Thunder, where they're going back in time. They shoot, like they go look, and what happens is the guy steps on a butterfly, and when they get back, time's completely changed.
Yeah, it's the butterfly effect.
I mean, there's a lot of that stuff I think is fascinating too, because obviously, like however the universe started, whatever else. Wait, how the heck are we ever going to know? Richard Dawkins said it the one time. Well, we don't know how it got here. It had to get here somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was a mistake.
How did the first single-celled organism that could reproduce get formed on this damn planet? That's the question for biology.
Anybody have any mushrooms before we continue? It might help if we do some to continue this part of the discussion.
Now we've looped back to drugs again.
No, but I'm fascinated by that because obviously I think like a lot of things in our lifetime, maybe before, millennia, how are we ever going to know how this thing started?
And most people don't care. Nobody really cares about it. Nobody really thinks about this stuff. We're all fine with it.
I care.
I know. No, there's no major schools of thought that have anything. We all as humanity accept the fact that we're just here and who cares?
Yeah, it's like
that's how it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was asked many times about the afterlife last year, and I'm like, nothing to report. Nothing to report.
Yeah.
So
we're certainly not going
to.
Is there a scientist out there that's going like, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take a little nitrogen in a petri dish, and I'm going to take a little, what else, like a protein, whatever protein's made out of, some lipids or something like that. I'm going to zap it with a certain frequency of a green laser, and I'm going to replicate the formation of the first life form on Earth. You think there's somebody out there trying to do that? Maybe.
I mean, they've been trying to understand the Big Bang for a while with the whole big collider thingy that I don't understand.
Well, I mean, you can just drive yourself nuts with this stuff. That's why, because you're never going to know. It's fun to speculate, everything else, but nobody's going to have the answers, obviously. Unless they somehow really develop real time travel or something, something like that.
I think time travel, as much as I've loved time travel stories, I think time travel is the worst idea it's the worst possible thing that could happen. I think because it is so, regardless of how it works, it is ultimately exploitable, and and the ways it can be, even if you believe in like multiverse theory, how many branch realities do we really need to create? You know,
I agree
and
with you.
what comes back? Can it come back? Can you go forward, backward, back? You know, just like, yeah, it's a mess.
So on that, did you see Paul McCartney's touring again?
No, man,
Yeah, he's
that
actually
guy.
playing Syracuse and some other. Actually, we're going to have a double Beatle bill around here because Ringo Starr's playing C-Mac. Actually, Andy's going to that because Leon Russell's in his band. But Paul McCartney's playing in Syracuse, and he's going on tour this summer.
Well, good for Paul. You know what I'm going to go see? I'm going to go see Todd Rundgren and Denny Lane do a tribute to Rubber Soul and Revolver in a little.
Cool.
Oh, where are they playing?
Down in Annapolis. I'm going to bring my friend who's a Todd Rundgren freak. So for their birthday.
Wow,
Yeah,
last
those
time
guys
I
are no
saw
joke. Those Todd Rundgren fans are serious.
I remember going into Aaron's
yeah.
Alley. Going into Aaron's Alley to get tickets. He was playing at the German House. This was actually 2008. And I was talking to the person they're selling me the tickets. He's like, oh, these Todd heads, they are out of this world.
They're like, why is he playing such a small house?
It was jammed, though, too. I was like against the wall.
It's a decent sized room for, you know. So I saw Delbert McClinton there with my dad. That was a fun night.
Yeah, you know, Todd, and this comes my friend too, feels the same way. You know, I look at him and I see like a big, kind of awkward, like gangly guy, kind of like a nerdy, but the chicks dig Todd.
Oh yeah. He, you know, I mean, his catalogs of just the songs people would know are so varied. Like, you know, he's. And I think the only reason they really like, because when one of the Cars reunions that was happening, Todd Rundgren replaced Rick Ocasek, and I was just like, I think it's just because they looked kind of alike.
Yeah, see, there you go. They're both kind of like
they're both that too, and I guess the way
guys,
they call themselves the New Cars. I have the album, and what it is, they just played the hits on the live, but then they did some new ones.
Yeah, whatever.
Ben
Orr was dead, and Rick Ocasek wasn't in the band. It's not the Cars.
This might be like blasphemy a little bit, Chaz, but I would almost put Todd Rundgren as almost a nerdy Nick Lowe. Because it's almost the same thing where he's got Hello, It's Me, the other hits and everything. I saw the light. Nick's got like the pop, but then he's got the alternative.
I agree with you, but I try to tell my friend and she doesn't like it. But those Todd hits are basically, and he's not stealing, but they sound a lot like Carole King. I mean, that stuff from Tapestry and stuff, that piano and the same sort of tonality and stuff. It sounds a lot like Carole.
Because I've been obsessed since Valentine's Day and actually over like the holidays and having some of my romantic stuff, which is me, you know. I got obsessed with. Plus, Katie Morey's been playing that like at her shows a lot, playing like a lot of like instrumental from Tapestry. So I was listening to the album a lot. I'll have to really go back and listen to some of his stuff and see what I think about that. It's a good analogy, though.
No, and I'm not the first person to do it. People were doing it. Critics were doing it to him when he was hitting big in '72. I don't think he liked it, but he'll admit it too. So,
yeah.
Well, we all take from everybody else. That's exactly the thing. But the thing is, too, he's like some inventor. I think he lives in Hawaii. I guess he invents all kinds of stuff too.
Yeah, I think he was one of the early guys into MIDI and a lot of electronic studio trickery around the 80s and stuff. Yeah, but I like the classic stuff from 72, 73.
Yeah, I've got all that stuff too. I think his cover of While My Guitar Gently Weeps is really good. He really wails on the guitar in that one.
But not as much as Prince. That's the jaw dropper. Prince doing While My Guitar Gently Weeps. See, if you ever want to see a good Prince video, go look that one up on YouTube.
I guess what Prince did, I went to the Trelf, actually. I went to go see the old 97s at the Trelf. And we were talking to the door guy, and the door guy was saying like some stories about the place. And you've been to the Trough in Buffalo, haven't you?
Once, just once.
I said, but so he said, I guess Prince played at the Odd. I still call it the Odd, whatever it is now. And I guess what he did was he came in after he was done, just got up on stage, and he played for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that though? You're out there and all of a sudden, wait a second, that guy looks like Prince. It is Prince. Wow, that's a really good imitator.
But not really.
Oh.
That guy had a lot of energy. Where was he getting it from? Getting it from something. Talented guy.
He was one of the most thoroughly talented musicians that's ever lived. He was odd duck for sure, but you know he was good at what he did, and his instincts were usually pretty good. The whole changes his name thing was incredibly calculated.
Which is actually
middle finger
exactly
up
right.
to the record company, and just like everyone's like, he's crazy. He's doing this. Like, no, he's not. He's negotiating in the strangest way possible. But it's like there was calculated in a very.
One of the albums of his I really like is his album Madhouse, which was all jazz, and there's another one, Around the World in a Day, where he went all psychedelic.
Yeah.
And imagine he could play. I think he could play every instrument.
Pretty much, yeah. I think a lot
of. I think there's two ingredients. I've heard this. This isn't from me, but from different sources. Two factors that make somebody into a master or a genius, and one of them's from the guy who wrote Blink. Who's that guy? That author? It's the 10,000 hour rule. So
yeah,
if you want to be a master something, you put in like 10,000 hours and you're probably good. But who has that obsession but just the people that are completely passionate? And then the other one is energy. You got to have that energy, and then if you got that, you're probably good. But not a lot of people have either of those. So
yeah.
And you have to be unliked too, because that's something I've read in some. No, I've done. The way I'm saying this, a lot of musicians' books, bios I've read, they said the thing they had in common was they weren't popular in high school or anything, because they had to think about it. If you had a social life, you wouldn't have time to do this.
I think there's, I think there's something to it, but it's like the whole thing about like artists have to be suffering, and it's just like that is nonsense.
Well, I mean, we do this for the show here.
Have a lot of artists suffered, but a lot of people suffer. And just like I think that. I don't think you have to suffer for anything to be better.
No, otherwise it's like, I know it's like the thing. Why can't it just be fun? But it's like I've been actually reading. I told MJ this, if she has time to ever read. I'm reading Brian Cox's autobiography. Just the stories about the theater are great.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize like Nicole Williamson was this eccentric, and they looked at him as like another Brando. But he would just go up, and if he just thought he wasn't doing well that night, he'd just go, I don't have it tonight. He'd walk off stage. And I guess what he would do is, like, if somebody was talking in the audience, he'd go to the front of the stage, go, I'll get back to it when you're finished. And I didn't know a lot about him, and I didn't realize, I actually heard a lot because of him and their Brian Cox was friends with Nigel Terry from Excalibur.
Oh,
and I guess he had like reading about him. I didn't realize like he was in Troy. He was in a lot of stuff, but I just never saw him again. I thought so. I'd probably seen him 100 times and not even known.
Yeah. He was that movie. It's a real strange movie. Excalibur. I love it, but it is very. It's a weird movie.
You got to take actually the reason I actually understood is I took an Arthurian legend class and the teacher extrapolated on it. So actually by then, but like when I was a kid watching it, it's like, what is going on? So like, didn't you go see 2001: A Space Odyssey when you were a kid, Chaz?
Yeah, and by the way, I'm back. My ISP's shaky today, so
Well, we're almost winding down. Somehow, when we have to live an hour like out of our rears.
So, Space Odyssey came out in '69, and I was about 5, 6 years old. I don't know. Yeah, and so my mom, my poor naive mom, God bless her, she impulsive, great mom, but she didn't read the fine print, and she thought it was a science fiction movie, like nonfiction. Like, there's the state of astronomy, right? Not a drama, right? And so she takes me, and the movie opens, and there are these monkeys throwing bones in the air, and I'm crying. I'm sobbing with terror. I'm like, what the hell is my mom making me watch? And it was bizarre, but it's a masterpiece. I remember sitting through it and seeing all the state-of-the-art Kubrick stuff. So,
oh yeah.
Well, I think he used that. A lot of the things he put on there was when he faked the moon landing.
Yeah,
I think he used a lot of the sets. He used a lot of the sets from there because it's all the space sets.
He did what nobody has done since, as far as like you watch that movie and you look at the makeup effects in the early man section and the effects, the spaceship and stuff effects, and realize it's 1968 when they made that movie.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
1968.
It was when it was released, so it was really made in 1967. So we're talking mid 60s, mid to late 60s, and he destroyed all that stuff. Like, he didn't want any of his secrets of how this stuff was made to get out.
And credit to him too, because a lot of like millennials and the younger generation, movies that were big in the 60s, 70s, they don't have a clue. But also The Shining, to the extent that that's become part of popular memeing and culture. And, it just is a testament to what a great movie that was.
Yeah. The amount of weird conspiracy theory that comes out. I know, not really conspiracy theory, but things that people thought that he did deliberately or put into the movie for weird reasons. There's a whole documentary on it. I think it's called Room
248, I think.
Room 237.
But even like the more harmless, unlunatic ones, like the idea that Jack's just imagining it.
No, but it's beyond that. It's just like, there's a thing. If you look in this one scene, you see this thing off in the background. That means this. It's like the carpet, the minutia of everything you see and hear. Like, there's significance in everything. On some level, somebody's picked every bit of that apart. Clothes people are wearing, things in the background, things,
Hansel and Gretel, even
inconsistencies in the film, which happen in virtually every movie, and they think like Kubrick couldn't make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah, plus he did
so
137 takes of
stuff, but it doesn't mean you can't make mistakes.
Stephen King did not like the really.
No, he didn't. We know that. I think Kubrick threw him off the set even.
Well, but my theory is Stephen King does not like to be upstaged, because they both have huge egos. They're both geniuses, but he's being upstaged by Kubrick. So people give Kubrick the credit for The Shining. When you say The Shining, they go, "Oh, Kubrick." And Stephen King, what am I, chopped liver? So he does a really bad remake for TV.
I didn't think it was that bad.
It was all right. I mean, the thing I'll give it to it is it was closer to the book. A lot closer to the book. And then Dr. Sleep, I didn't actually, okay, the movie was okay. I thought like one of the characters was really cool. But the movie was, I mean, they changed the ending and stuff, but it's a movie. They do that.
They did it. The movie Dr. Sleep was a kind of concession because they couldn't not evoke the movie The Shining. So they did Mike Flanagan directed, who's one of the best directors in horror genre now. And and Stephen King signed off on it too. And even during the press for that movie, he basically kind of he didn't really walk back things he said about the movie, but he finally acknowledged, yes, it is a really good movie. It's not my story, and I've had to take years to settle myself with it, but it is an excellent movie. It's just like, I'm not going to deny it's a good movie, but it's just not my story.
But one of the things I have to say, though, about going back to 2001, my dad with dementia watching it had the best comment ever. At the end with the Star Child, he ended up watching the movie. He's just going, what in the heck went on in this movie? And the funny part about it, too, is the only reason that movie got made was Kubrick wanted to do a sci-fi movie. He didn't know the genre. One of his friends liked R.C. Clarke's stuff and recommended The Monolith. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey,
The Monolith was a very simple story. It's actually basically people go to the moon and there's a monolith there and they realize the civilization, somebody visited the moon. That's it.
Remember about 2 years ago, there was a monolith out in the Midwest in a canyon somewhere.
And then they started popping up everywhere. They're just weird outsider art installations. Because when they found the one that they found, then everybody started getting on board, and then they were finding them everywhere, to a point where they were more and more fake the more they found them. It was just like it's
Well, I'm not saying it's aliens, but but it's probably aliens.
It's probably aliens.
Sure, why not?
Lump of metal that somebody put out there. Somebody
once again, I think we could do this with a broom if we have to, and I think we had technical difficulties with my friend, and we pulled out another one.
So what if next time I tried phoning in? Does that work in Zoom, or
I phone it in every time the way I do these shows. I just hope the guests are good.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think it works any other way. But
I'm actually doing some tech work on this week because I want to see if I can do it on my phone next time.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. See if this has got enough cool content.
It does. We're always interesting. Come on, we're us after all. We didn't even mention Amelia Clark, but we did. Did you know my friend did the alternative cover? But did you know my friend for her comic book, she did an alternative cover for issue number 3. It's like the best comic in the world.
And on that note, good night, everyone.
Yeah, good night. See you, Chas.
Night, guys. Thank you. Yeah. Put it up. Put this up.
We are the Architects of Entropy, a collaborative world-building, tabletop role-playing, actual play podcast. In other words, my friends and I create exciting, weird worlds, and then we play in them. Join us for our introductory story as we play Dungeons & Dragons in a homebrew high fantasy world populated with dwarves, elves, fairies, and anthropomorphic weasels. What's going to happen next? We have no idea. Join us and find out. Architects of Entropy, a podcast.